Welcome to the Seattle Angel workshop series. We're on our way to Seattle Angel Conference 29. That'll start in March. And we're doing some workshops around how to do angel investing and how to be an effective startup in the angel investing pre-seed context. So today we're going to do pitch deconstruction. We'll start with everybody who wants to pitch can do a 1-minute pitch, and we'll just go bang, bang, bang through it. And then we'll see who sort of lands on top with that. And then we can do a 3-minute pitch. So 1-minute pitch, no slide. The 3-minute pitch, if you have slides, you're welcome to use them. Any questions before we get going? All right. So Matt, you're in my upper left corner. We'll start with you. Oh, sorry. Let me introduce our judges. We have David Busby, who is one of the few examples of someone who came through Seattle Angel Conference as a company and then came back as an investor and now is doing the fund manager route along with Chris. And Chris Chen is our co-SPV organizer for Seattle Angel Conference 29. So they're the ones that are organizing, pulling together all of the people that are doing the work. And then we have Elaine, who is our most dedicated angel investor, as well as most data-oriented person in our group, pointy data geek that we have, that helps collect data about the Seattle angel investment patterns and how people are doing their pre-seed and seed investments. So when we do our Meet the Funders workshop on February 17th, I expect that Elaine will have some things to say at that point. So, Matt, 1 minute. I'm going to put you on spotlight so everybody can see you. Do your 1 minute, and then I'm going to just walk through everybody and call you up next, right? And we'll just go through those.
I didn't realize it was a pitch practice, but it's good for me to just go off the cuff. So let me share my screen.
No sharing screen. Just
Oh,
1
I
minute.
thought you said we had a slide deck if we had one.
For the 3-minute one, but for the 1 minute, just do the 1 minute.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm turning on my stopwatch. Once again, my universe has been adjusted. Let's see. All right.
Let me know.
Let me turn on the spotlight, and there you go. Go ahead.
So, New Gem Foods, we make a replacement for bread and tortillas made out of fruits and vegetables. So our tomato wrap is tomato, our carrot wrap is carrot. We're the only company that does this. I tell people that a tomato tortilla is a red tortilla. It's not tomato. And so ours is 25 calories versus 250 calories. We developed the product, the USDA's Agriculture Research Service. We have 2 patents, and we couldn't contract manufacture it because we developed a process to do it. And so we put together our own production facility. We've invested about $2.5 million into our own production facility. So we launched the product with the first product we launched was to replace seaweed on sushi. That's completely for food service. The second product launch was to replace bread and tortillas on sandwiches. And we have a beachhead in the marketplace, and so we're trying to raise money to grow that. So we have some distribution. We have about 200 stores in retail where we're growing the business, and we're doing our first round to basically just grow the sales and grow the business from there.
All right. That's the end of your minute. Thanks. John Garrison, would you like to go next?
Yes, that'd be great.
Go ahead.
All right. So I'm John Garrison, one of the co-founders of SplintFactory.com. We are helping hand therapists 3D print custom billable hand splints in their office. We have a working platform that demonstrates all the concepts. We have it working in 2 different locations. And basically the pitch in a nutshell is there's a large potential market. I've found estimates anywhere from $1.4 billion to $6 billion coming from the top down And I've verified that with bottom-up calculations based on my co-founder's tracking of her own number of splints that she's creating. She's a certified hand therapist. And currently there is no credible in-office 3D printing competitor in this space for hand therapists. So we have a working platform, large potential market, and we've talked to early customers, and they seem quite excited about it. So we're still in the early phases, but that's the current situation.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad that you know what a minute looks like. Richard, I'm going to bring you up.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, and
Hi, I'm Richard Ackerman, founder of WorldMine.
hold on a
Large
second.
language models hallucinate because they don't know what they're allowed to say. In regulated industries like bioscience and pharma, that makes them unusable. WorldMine builds hallucination-safe AI systems by authorizing answers instead of guessing. We combine retrieval augmented generation with a licensing layer that only allows the model to respond when claims are supported by verified knowledge. If it can't verify, it abstains. Our initial customers are bioscience and pharma teams who need AI that they can trust in research, regulatory, and clinical workflows. We have a working prototype and a published preprint demonstrating 0 false answers in structured domains. We're building the enterprise stack for trustworthy AI.
Cool. You have 15 more seconds that you could use. All right.
Yeah, didn't realize I'd finish early.
Yeah, so that's where the practice comes in. Yuan, I'll have you next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ewan. When primary care physicians encounter patients with complex presentations, they need to rapidly construct an accurate differential diagnosis from incomplete information. They would normally rely on clinical intuition and reference tools, but because of increasing patient complexity and the explosion of medical knowledge, these alternatives no longer work because they support isolated tasks rather than the clinician's full reasoning process. If these problems are left unaddressed, then diagnostic errors would increase, clinician burnout would accelerate. So we build a solution that helps primary care physicians achieve confident, high-quality decisions by helping them reason through complex differentials quickly, safely, while communicating next steps to patients. Thank you.
Cool. And you too left 15 seconds on the clock. So there's definitely opportunity there.
Yeah.
And Randall, you're next. You're on mute.
There we go.
There
Can
you
you
go.
hear me?
Sorry. I
Okay,
can.
so anyway, so I'm Randy Bardwell, founder of Wearable. I spent my career building ECG and patient monitoring systems used in hospitals and cardiology clinics worldwide. And I started this company because cardiac care is fundamentally broken. I'm a cardiac patient myself and know all too well the rigors of care. In ICUs today, there are predictive analytics systems that can warn doctors up to 6 hours before a patient crashes, but they cost hundreds of thousands of dollars and worked only when you're plugged into an ICU bed. When patients go home, that intelligence disappears. Wearable brings that capability to the individual patient. We've built Pixie, a medical grade wearable that captures multi-lead ECG, respiration, and vital signs continuously, and Seva, our secure cloud platform that runs clinical grade predictive analytics in real time. This targets the $8 to $10 billion ambulatory cardiac monitoring market inside a $100 billion healthcare wearables wave, with a platform designed for FDA clearance, clinical workflows, and reimbursement from day one. We're raising $2 million to finish the platform, clear FDA, and launch our first reimbursed pilots. Wearable isn't a gadget, it's an ICU level cardiac intelligence delivered to the home.
Cool. Thank you. Carlos, how about you?
Unmuted. Okay. Thank you.
Ready when you are.
I'm ready. I'm Carlos de la Huerga, the founder of Apparis. Apparis saves hospitals $55 billion a year with products and software making medication administration safer, by making it faster. Hospital nurses describe their day as working in the twilight zone. They use equipment and procedures that are too complicated or ineffective, creating opportunities for mistakes. It's no surprise that 78,000 patient deaths are related to medication errors. I've developed several safety systems that created new markets. One $5 billion example is an infusion pump safety system used to prevent thousands of deaths a year. We're also the only company funded by the NIH to prevent the highly dangerous theft of opioids by hospital caregivers. Nurses don't want to make mistakes that will haunt them, like a medication error that will silently suffocate your mother in the next 20 minutes. To prevent these deaths and injuries, we streamline all aspects of medication administration, helping nurses to provide the safest care.
Cool. Thank you so very much. So let me bring David and Elaine.
Did you get everybody, John?
I did. Trish says that she's not interested in being the speaker. So everybody who has a name has been done.
Great.
We can check. Anybody else want to pitch? Yeah, right. So any feedback on these pitches to folks?
Sure.
Well, yeah. Go ahead, Elaine.
I'm never short of words, right? I know David and Chris will have other things to say, so I can just kind of start the ball rolling. One of the things that I notice myself asking in all of these 1-minute pitches is, what is the problem we are trying to solve? And if I don't understand that early, I kind of tune out, because I need to know why the world cares about what you're talking about. So when I think about it, 78,000 deaths related to patient mismedications. Okay, that got my attention, right? That's something that says, ooh, there sounds like a problem. And then after that, I'm very interested in quickly understanding what is the solution, right? I know in 1 minute, it's really hard to boil down everything you want to say. But if you can get me interested that you have a real life problem, you have a solution, I can start to lean in and then listen for the other 8 to 10 things I'm looking for in the 3-minute pitch. But at least one of the things I need to be able to articulate. So let's say I saw David and Chris, in the next hour, I'd want to be able to say, hey, you guys, you should look out for these pitches because it's fitting this need. So to me, that's one of the most important things I can say about the feedback. The second thing is that, as John would like to tell you all the time, is you need to be a purple cow. And you need to, when we are in these situations where there are multiple presentations back to back, how is it that I can remember you, your presentation, your company, what you're saying, so that you can make it to the next round? Nobody's going to write a check based on the information you're talking about in a 1-minute pitch. So your goal is to get to the 3-minute pitch or the 5-minute pitch. So those are like my key top of the head things. Chris or David, what would you like to add?
David, do you want to go first?
I'll go first. One is just in general, the 1-minute pitch is pretty critical to be spot on, with not ums and oh maybe, and so that's how it is. It shouldn't be that casual. I like it when it feels like you know exactly what to say in those 60 seconds. One of the pitches, and I don't know if I should pick on Richard directly, but I'm going to, came out with a huge claim, which I think is really, really good, because I at least need to have a follow-up question with you after that to get into your space about you told me AI can't hallucinate. You got a fix for that? I really feel like that's BS since I know a little bit about AI. And so you've got your hooks in with a claim like that. And I feel like everybody else has the opportunity for a claim like that, where again, if the investor has a moderate amount of experience in your space and they hear an outsized claim, it makes you interesting enough to get to, the next space. The other thing is Randall came in hot too with good coverage on his team. I think in the first minute, nobody knows anything about anybody. And so that tell me your team is really awesome is, I also think, very, very important. I didn't hear a whole lot of points in this first minute from anyone too hard about their traction. And I might have missed it because I was trying to type my notes that I was thinking at the same time. The 1 minute is an unfortunately tight spot for everyone. End of line.
So I would agree with everything that Elaine and David said. I think again on the traction, I think the Matthew, the veggie wrap, if I would call it, you did sort of mention, hey, we're in 200, local stores. I think that's those numbers, like you're saying, traction is one of the key things that investors all like to hear about, and it's either some sort of adoption, some sort of, hey, we've gotten these grants. If you're in the medical device space, you may be far away from commercialization. You don't need to get to commercialization. It's these other ways that you can actually talk about traction. So those might be the NIH grants, the patents, that sort of thing. I think again, like Matthew or some of the medical devices. I think Matthew, you mentioned something about a patent or whether or not it wasn't patentable. I think those things are really important because that helps you sort of provide that moat. Again, these are not things that you go deep into, but you say, hey, we've applied for X number of patents or whatever. We think we can get some patent protection around here. But you don't go into the details in this 1 minute pitch. It's like what Elaine was saying. It's like, can you become a purple cow? Can you make something, say something that actually stands out and excites people? I also liked a lot of the good energy. Like Randy had like a lot of great energy when in his 1 minute pitch. I think you got 1 minute. You gotta come with all the gusto that you can. I think that's great. I think um, you know, you know, it's a balance of trying not to get too detailed and to really hit those high points. Um, and I think again, the focus is more of like hit the high points and as David said, create those questions or your goal is really to have the investors want to come and ask you questions later in your pitch, you're not answering all the questions, but you're really, talking about what is that opportunity? What is your solution? In a high level, why are you guys the ones to, or gals, the ones to sort of bet on? So I think those are kind of my general feedback. And the other one that I would maybe talk about is if your company in particular has something, you know, like some aspect that would be a challenge or that you need to really, think about scaling or whatever, if it's a super high capital intensive business, you might want to sort of say something about that and how you have a solution for that.
So, Chris, there was something else I'll say in splintfactory.com that caught my attention. The fact that he said that there is no in-office competitor in this space. So, like by the time I get to the 3 minute pitch, I really want to know kind of the highlights of the competitive landscape. And so that kind of also piqued my interest from that other vector, the information that I want to hear next time. You started to feed me a little bit of that. So that made me lean in a little bit as well.
So one of the things that I find useful to mention is you notice that you can see behind David and me something that's sort of branded. And so you have the opportunity, like Carlos has done, to brand yourself a little bit so that you have the space. But we have people who come to our program where a decision is going to be made based on the quality of your pitch and the engagement that are like in a subway trying to pitch us in the subway, or they're in a closet and you can't actually see their face, or so there's your environment that would be really useful for you to have light on the front of your face and to have a background that represents where you're at. And when you are trying to be found in a crowd where there's 80 people pitching and you go into the breakout rooms, you would like to be easily identifiable. And one way to do that is to clean up your environment visually on the process. And then also we have people who have no mics and they're trying to sit in a bathroom and it's all echoey and it's very hard to keep track of them. And so it's worth your while to spend time on just the physical process of being present in the room. I didn't, I get lots of cold emails where they're telling me about the what of what they're doing, but I can't tell what stage they're at. I'm not really sure how much money they're raising. I don't know that they have any traction. So I'm actually not quite sure whether they're an idea that they just thought of this morning or whether they've been working on this for a while and they have 100 people that are all very interested in having it happen and engaged. So if you can provide a little bit of context about where you are and then some notion about the speed at which you're moving, that always helps. Let me drop the...
Really quick, John, you said something about you're not really sure about where the stage of the company is and then how much money they're raising. Does it make sense to mention the dangers of the general solicitation?
Yeah, please go for it.
Well, I don't really know what to say, but you're not supposed to broadcast that you're raising money unless you know everybody in the room is like your friend.
Right.
And so you can't stand on the street corner and try to sell shares of your company, but you can have one-on-one and invite-only conversations to say, please give me money for my early stage business. That's the gist of it. But it's called general solicitation, and the SEC has lots of stuff to say about it. And if you ask ChatGPT or any of the other LLMs about a thing that lots of stuff has been written about, they will give you a very good summary.
So to be explicit about that, when you are raising money, you're doing a regulated activity. And you should be clear about what path you're going through the regulations on. And the typical answer for 95% of angel investing is that you're going through Reg D 506B. So if that's what you are doing and your lawyer agrees that that's what you're doing, then you should be aware of general solicitation, which is when you're in a public room like this is, then you wouldn't say I'm raising, 500,000 with the 10 million cap, because you just made something that's awfully close to that looks like an offer. And so the way you get around that is by knowing who's in the room and making sure it's a small group thing, not a general solicitation, but a specific one, or you hint that they should come talk to you later about helping you make progress or whatever. Just to check, how many people have a startup lawyer for their startup? So if you don't have a startup lawyer, then let me urge you to make sure you get one, not a regular business lawyer, but a lawyer that knows what the SEC is. And that'll be helpful for you, especially when we negotiate deal terms. And we'll have a workshop on deal terms later on. Trisha had the thought that she might try a 1-minute pitch, and then we'll go vote and see who's going to do the 3-minute pitches. Trisha, are you ready?
Yeah, hi, for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm Trisha from Spectreville, and imagine this. So you're a parent of a child who's navigating autism therapy and getting anxious at each instance of aggression or trigger, and you're left wondering what is not working. You're doing everything. So this leads to confusion, delays in intervention, and unmet needs, which are faced by 93% of children on the autism spectrum. So at Spectrum, we're trying to change that. Our AI-driven application empowers caregivers with personalized insights, helping them support the child's unique needs right from home. With a published solution verified by UW Medicine and ABA facilities, we ensure that therapy doesn't stop at home. It continues once you leave the clinic door. So with a HIPAA verified and privacy compliant solution, we're trying to bring Spectable, which is a digital platform that is revolutionizing at-home autism care. Thank you.
All right. There's your minute. Cool. Thank you for trying. So I think today I will ask Dave and Chris and Elaine to pick which three you would like to see.
Meaning, John, you want our individual threes and then see where we get to?
Yeah, just see, let's discuss it. We have a small enough group here, we can look at these are the ones that are interesting and why kind of conversation.
Who do you want to go first?
Well, since you were brave the first time, I'll let David go first this time. You're on mute, David.
I'm picking Matthew with the tortilla and Richard with the outsized claim, and then also Randall with another sort of outsized claim.
Okay.
I like hyperbole, gets me excited.
Okay, Chris, you want to tell us your three?
I would have picked those three as well. Okay. I want to hear about AI a little bit more.
Yeah.
I was interested in the vegetable wrap just because, food is always interesting. And I think that would be a good, another good startup to talk about and challenges there. And I did want to hear more from Randall and the wearables and the EKG. And I thought that was like a high impact one that also sort of stands out to investors.
You mean you don't want to
Carlos is also like I thought his was would be kind of interesting to think about too.
All right. Elaine?
So the one on that hasn't been brought up is I'd like to hear from John from splintfactory.com. I'm interested. I think he did a good job kind of outlining the fact that it's a large market, and I really like the fact that he's talked to customers early. You can never talk to customers too early or too often, and that there's no competitors in this space. So I'd really like to hear more about that.
Okay. I'm very curious. We have Thunder and we have Kevin. And I guess that's it. So Thunder and Kevin, did you have a thought of, gee, I really wish that I heard something from somebody else than the ones that were just mentioned?
No, I'm pretty happy with the picks.
Yeah. Can you express a feeling for why you were happy, or
Okay.
What's the thing that you leaned one way instead of the other?
So I'm a chemistry major, or I'm a chemistry master's student in grad school. I deal with AI a lot and its drawbacks in technical fields, and so I'm very interested in Richard's claim that he solved that. I'm also interested in the new gem simply because it sounds like something that I myself would be interested, and I'm just interested in hearing more about wearable in general.
Okay. Kevin?
I think the wearable is the most interesting to me just because of recent issues with elderly parents and way more time in the hospital than I would like.
Boy, howdy. Yeah, okay. So it's coming down to impressions, right? You have a thing that gets thrown out and you get this impression and it resonates at some level. So that's good. It's important for folks to hear that. Yeah, definitely. We will go through those and try to get through those with 3 minutes. So I heard that there was Matthew with New Gem. You have slides, and there's Randall with wearable, and there's Richard with the World Mind AI that doesn't hallucinate. And we'll go through those and we'll see if we have time left to pick up a couple of others.
John, I would like to hear John from Splint Factory.
Yes, I heard you. We
And
have
so
two.
that's the
we have-
one I
that
that's
would
the
be
one
5, right?
that's the one I would like.
The one you would like.
Yes, I didn't have the other 3. That's if you asked me to do 3, I just did 1. That's the one I would like.
If I was able to pick 4, Splint Factory would be my number 4.
Okay.
I didn't need to hear more about John now, though, because I also heard about John this morning.
This morning, yes.
And
so John, do you have slides?
I do have slides. Yep.
Okay, and Richard and Randall, you have slides as well?
Yeah,
Yes.
sure do.
All right, cool.
Perfect.
Yeah, all right. So I'm going to start with Matthew. You ready to go? Oh, let me get to 3 minutes on my clock here.
Yeah, let me share screen and see if you guys
Yep.
have the right screen, because I use dual screens.
Yeah, technology gets in our way often.
Yep. So that's wrong. So let me switch. So now, do you see the slide?
Not yet.
Oh,
Did you hit the share button?
I did. Let me try again. There it goes. All right, now presentation mode.
Yep, looks good. Ready when you are.
And are you seeing? Do you?
Yep, looks good.
Which screen are you seeing?
Wraps made from fruits and vegetables.
But are you seeing?
No, now you gave me the speaker notes.
Okay, got it. Okay, swap. Okay, there we go.
Okay.
The big problem going on here is he's making me hungry.
Oh, that's wrong. Okie dokie.
Go.
So we make wraps from fruits and vegetables, and envision I'm holding up a tomato, and so I say, we take this and we make this, and I'm holding up a wrap. So we make wraps from fruits and vegetables. We're the only company that does it. Our tomato is tomato. Our carrot's carrot, and so we're a food technology company, and one of our wraps is equal to a tomato or equal to a carrot. And the reason we're doing this is because there's a changing, consumers are changing their purchasing habits, and we also have a lot of what they say is most chronic human diseases are downstream of obesity, and so we're trying to help resolve that by letting them, people eat more healthily. And we're reimagining the ordinary. And so there's a dynamic shift towards nutritious and delicious foods. And GLP-1 drugs, for example, are causing a change to people are seeking out nutrient-dense foods. And that's what our product is. And so I mentioned before, a tomato tortilla is a red tortilla. It's not tomato. Ours is actually tomato. It's actually carrot. And you're looking at 225 calories versus 250 calories for a tortilla. We're grain free. We know from doing consumer surveys and other things, we sent out surveys to 110 households, and people are buying our product because of low calories, low carbs, and gluten free. It's also 100% plant based, 1 year shelf life without refrigeration. I did mention that we developed the product. We got 2 patents issued on the products we developed a manufacturing process to make them because nobody did it, so we couldn't contract manufacture. And so we have a lot of processing trade secrets. We've invested $2.5 million into putting our production facility up. Doing our own manufacturing gives us a lot of operating leverage and a high gross margin. The plant has about $16 million of capacity, but we're only using about 5% of that. So we have a lot of capacity to grow into. I mentioned this already. A big reason for this is there's just a lot of diet problems that are being dealt with, and people are realizing that what they eat impacts their health and their longevity, and those things have become really important elements to consumers. So you have 37 million Americans are diabetic. You have 96 million that are pre-diabetic. Greater than 40% are obese, and this is actually similar for Europe too. So it's a global problem. Americans eat 110 billion sandwiches annually, and we want to take a bite out of that market, right? So it's supposed to be a joke, but so there's a lot of big markets. Tortillas are 9 billion, alternate breads 5 billion, gluten-free is 6 billion. 30% of consumers are actually looking for gluten-free items. It's pretty interesting. We know who's buying our product. It's head of household female who's buying for their family. They're looking for healthier options, and they're trying to navigate all of the things in the house. And so I'm sure this is in your household as well. So I talked to a lady. She said, my husband's diabetic, my one daughter's celiac, and my other daughter has all these allergies. And so they're just trying to navigate this issue in the house and find things that they can eat. And our product is a single solution. We do have traction. We're in 8 distributors. We're in some retailers. So we're in Raley's, we're in Wegmans, we're in 2 Whole Foods regions. And we're talking to a lot of other customers to, get into other stores.
And
So
you're
these
way
are the
past
products.
3 minutes.
So these are the products that we have. So I mentioned we have the sandwich product that we sell. The first, I'm at 3 minutes. Sorry.
Yeah, way past.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking it was 5 minutes. I don't know why my brain wasn't working. Sorry about that.
So anybody want to start the commentary?
I like a lot of the traction. I like that you list the stores that you're in. I think that, solidifies a lot of that, that you're not just 2 people in a garage working on this, that you've actually come a long way. I think a lot of the positives are having the IP and having some patents in there. I think one of the questions is, that I come away with is, are you trying to be the grocery outlet distribution, or are you trying to go into restaurants? I think the other question would be more of like, how does this taste? Are there any, like how is that consumer acceptance of that? I think that would add to a lot more of the traction. I think you have a lot of good information and a lot of good data that shows that you've come a long way and that you've progressed, and that there is opportunity here. I think for a new product, is this the challenge is this a trend, or is this a long-term movement, right? And I think I think that's part of the challenge and the opportunity, or phrase it more like that opportunity. If there's if there's some other things you could talk about, how this is really that we're moving towards that, not just the GLP-1s, and like how does it solve it? How does what are people really looking for? Are they looking for lower calories, or are they looking for more pure ingredients? That kind of thing. And I think, again, like one of the things, it's great on the front slide that you have you and your co-founder listed. To me, I think that's great to show that you're a team. So, having that, and having that, like that just adds more to the substance of your startup and of your company. So I think those are my surface level feedback. I think this is a good, good discussion, but again, be mindful of the time, and trying to again, with 3 minutes, you don't have much time. So it is still a lot of the how can you make yourself stand out? How can you hit those big points? You don't have to really explain in detail.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I don't know why my brain didn't. You said it a million times, and it was a 3-minute pitch, and I don't know why my brain was saying 5. I don't know what, not working.
And
Right.
it's funny. You want to make sure, and this is for everybody, not just you, Matthew. You want to make sure you have different length versions of the presentation that you want. So in your back pocket, you should have a 1, a 3, a 5, and a 10. If you don't have those, work on those. You know, be able to do them with slides and without slides, um, and make sure you time yourself some practice. Um, I will go with Chris. My number one question is, how does it taste? And do you have repeat purchasers, customers? Part of the reason I say that is because I like the fact that you labeled yourself a food technology company, and that you have had to develop a manufacturing facilities to do that. But when I look at it, the closest thing I can think of that comes to that is when I used to have kids and we would have fruit wraps, right? And that's a definitely very unique texture, and how that works as a wrap to hold food, and is it sticky, and is it sticky enough for the wrap, is it sticky for your hands, and what's the experience like? And the tomato is the one that I was really interested in. And it's like, man, I would love to taste it. And so if you had said to me in your previous things, the reason I am in Wegmans and Whole Foods is because we started out with, just a small set of inventory, and they have to restock us every week because they sell out. Now, okay, now I'm totally leaning in. Like, I love the fact, just like Chris, that you have and this is again for anybody, whenever you have name brands that are interested in you, part of your cap table, or you're being stocked in, or having a partnership with, make sure you say that loud and clear, because that is definitely traction that gets our attention, because somehow you got their attention. So, so to me, understanding that customer response that you've gotten, even if you had, a slide that quickly kind of said, "Hey, here we realize that this is a new kind of thing, and this is all the feedback we've had." That we can talk about everything from, we'll go down to the farmer's market and put out free samples. And in order to get your free sample, you have to write what did you like about it when you gave them out something, right? It's something that you could do very quickly, but I think it will take a lot of doubt away. I'm not sure if you've ever heard it. Sometimes investors were called ADD, right? We're hard to focus, hard to keep on track. So as soon as I see your presentation, then I start thinking about, wow, I wonder what that tastes like. I wonder how it feels in my mouth. I wonder, and now I've missed all the things about your patents and your whatever, because I'm wondering about that. It's just kind of how it works. And so you really have to craft your pitches very carefully. And this is for everybody, that there are breadcrumbs that you make me follow through the presentation, and you don't let me go into a corner and like go off, because then you've totally lost me. The other thing I'll say, and then I'll turn it over to David, is that I really like knowing that founders have skin in the game. So the fact that you have said, "Hey, we've sunk $2.5 million into creating a facility and making sure our technology can manufacture these ourselves. We've got additional capacity. We can, if Whole Foods says, "Oh man, I now want to expand into more than 2 regions," I got you covered.
Cool. Thanks. I'm just going to jump in real quick. I am in the same boat with Chris and Elaine. I like that you talked about the fact that you put 2.5 into your manufacturing piece. One thing I would also say, all of your presentations going forward are very, very likely to be online. And it's not just you. I'm not just picking on you, but this frustrates me every single time as a person who's very good with the computer. Why is anybody struggling to make the screen to share and then start your slide deck? Haven't you done that 1,000 times? Like, it's just like Elaine was talking about. I get distracted real easy. Took you 3 seconds, 5 seconds to get your slide deck going. What's going on over there? I don't think you also. I was a little distracted because it's food, and burrito is in my top tier of good food. So I'm really interested in this, and I might have missed it because of the burrito distraction. But I don't think I heard enough about sales. And I am looking at your website right now, free shipping. So that's exciting for me. And I know it's shelf stable, so it can make it across the country to me. But I do not want to buy 6 packages of 6 wraps. And I would just encourage you to let me press one button I will pay the shipping, but give me the sample pack that's like 2 of carrot. Mango chipotle sounds exciting. Apple kale sounds exciting. Apple with smoked tomato. I'm ready to put a pizza style burrito in there. I also thought it was good to mention the patents. You guys put money in. I love to hear it. You got patents, which I usually think are not that great because I spend a lot of time in software where patents aren't that big of a deal. But a manufacturing facility and patents is very interesting. There was a second product that you also have. You have sandwich wraps, and you have sushi wraps.
Yeah, we actually started with that. That's all food service, and then we eventually. What happens is this is not, but you can't cover it in the presentation. But being a component of somebody else's product ended up being a challenge, and so then we came up with the sandwich product and launched that. So we still sell the food service product as well.
So do you have a bunch of traction with that food service product right now that's giving you revenue that's going to make you look real good?
So it's no.
Yes or no?
So our revenue is split with the sushi and the sandwich product. The sushi channels is actually really difficult. I want to give other people time, but the sushi distribution channels turned out to be really challenging. That was another reason why we developed the sandwich product.
Challenge or not, there's revenue coming in.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Wegman.
That's a good story. Even if
we all like revenue, Matthew.
Yeah.
Early stage business, of course, your revenue is challenging. Everything about what you're doing is going to be challenging. So whatever, I punched the dog in the face and I got a $10. Like, great, talk about it. It was rough.
Wegmans uses our sushi products. They've used it for a very long time.
So the one last thing that I wanted to say that I forgot to mention, and Elaine jogged it out of me when she said you're a food technology company. So it's really especially for a consumer-based product company like yourself, is your go-to-market strategy. What is your strategy? Are you trying to create a brand, or are you going to try to partner with people that can already get the product out there, right? So are you going to be going to, whatever Mission Tortillas? Are you going to go through, local retailer restaurants to actually build it? Or are you going to create that brand? So that's kind of a challenge of a consumer brand, right? Or consumer product. And building a brand takes a lot of money and it's very challenging. So that's just keep that in mind. You don't have to answer it, but that's just one thing to think about as a consumer brand.
And again, I don't want to take too much time, but this is another reason why, but we make the, that's, I don't know if you can see it, but we, it's a, we're going to launch these, but this is a green apple wrap with trail mix inside of it. And
Yeah.
you just eat the whole thing.
Trail mix nuggets?
Yeah, we call them snack pods.
Sure.
So this is, yeah, we can do anything we can make tons of them.
See, you're going to have trouble with us being online because everybody wants to do things in the
Tasting.
mouth, right? You got to get us to taste it. All right, so I'm going to bring Richard up and thank you very much.
Thank you for all of that.
Richard, ready to go when you are.
Thank you. I'm going to share screen. Is everyone seeing my screen?
Yep.
Very good. I assume you're not seeing my...
Yep, all good. Okay. Looks good.
Okay, so large language models are impressive, but they hallucinate. In consumer settings, that's annoying. In bioscience and pharma, it's unacceptable. Existing guardrails reduce probability, but they don't provide guarantees. And in regulated domains, probabilistic correctness is not enough. So the root issue is architectural. LLMs are trained to generate plausible language, not authorized claims. They don't know when they're allowed to speak, only how to sound convincing. Why hallucination is not a bug, that's why hallucination is not a bug, it's structural. So WorldMind solves this by authorizing answers instead of guessing. We combine retrieval augmented generation with a licensing layer that verifies whether a claim is supported by structured knowledge. If it's supported, the model answers. If it's not, the system abstains. No hallucination, no speculation. Most AI companies don't do this because abstention reveals what an LLM does not know, and it requires a different architecture. So we're optimizing for trust, not fluency. So LLMs, they're coherence engines, all right? So they don't know anything about truth, they don't know anything about knowledge, and the reason that I discovered this is that my background is computer science and philosophy. And I was curious about AI. So April of last year, I picked up Attention is All You Need because I wanted to find out what these transformers are all about. And I just had this huge aha moment that the reason all the LLMs are not doing what they're supposed to do and why they're hallucinating is that is built on a Cartesian ontology, basically. And I studied Heidegger, and there's a different ontology that they should be using, and then they wouldn't have hallucination. My quick answer is to say that we can at least solve it by making ontologies on the side. So we use RDF, OWL, and Shackle. We make a knowledge ontology, and we check that and tell the LLM that it can't respond if it can't verify from this knowledge ontology. That is a fix that we could apply now to pharma and to bioscience just to have an initial audience. But ultimately, we know how AI could be done properly. And I'll just go way out on a limb and say there is no AI right now. There's no AI anywhere. So we have a working prototype, and we've published a preprint demonstrating zero false answers in structured domains. And this isn't theoretical, it's deployable, and it's designed for enterprise use. We're starting with bioscience and pharma, where trust is non-negotiable and hallucination is a hard stop. We're building the enterprise stack for trustworthy AI, and we are preparing for seed funding while engaging early design partners. Thank you.
Thanks. Let me bring folks up.
I think David gets to go first on this one.
I don't know if I like to go first, but
okay. I'll go first if you don't want to go first.
Please.
Okay, Richard. I think you need to know who your audience is. So you were probably talking to David. And I don't know who else in the room you were talking to, right? I do have to let you know that I worked at Microsoft for 25 years and in the last 15 in the data science team. So you probably were also talking to me, but there are a lot of people out there that have no freaking clue what you just said, right? One of the things, and again, guys, no matter what your presentation is, make sure you do not use abbreviations. Make sure you don't use in uh, very narrow focused terminology, right? Now, Richard, you are lucky enough that all the VCs out there are chatting AI. So they're interested in the fact that you have piqued their interest because you're talking about AI. Now, the other reason it's interesting because is probably everyone on this Zoom has used AI, and we all have experienced the fact that it has been totally wrong. And wonder how can you get AI that doesn't lead you down the wrong path or give you the wrong answer and if you I have had conversations with every LLM that I use in order to get it to try and triple cross check and verify before it gives me any answer. And that doesn't always lead me to a good answer either. So you've definitely piqued my interest in being provocative and talking about that. I like the fact that you say you have a working prototype so that we could talk further about what you have developed and where it's going, right? I would like to know, so if you're talking about AI, I would like to know more about your team and or if it's just you. Um, I am not sure you casually saying you picked up a book and talked about it, thought about it last year, and it got you to this point is what I would put in the first 3 minutes.
That was all off the cuff.
Yeah, it's okay.
And I
I'm just
did that
giving
for
you
David
feedback.
because I thought I needed to, or I wanted to help.
But knowing one of the things that I thought you did a beautiful job on, and that I probably have not ever articulated, is that you said something about LLMs or the AI that people are using today don't know about truth or knowledge, right?
That's correct.
So I think you're going to lose people when you talk about Cartesian ontologies,
That was
like,
my other off the cuff. Sorry.
right? Like I think that's way to the end of the pointy-headed people, and I'm a pointy-headed person, so I'm just saying that. But the fact that you can say that the AIs are not designed to talk about truth and knowledge, and what you are bringing is another layer that before it spits out an answer, it's going to verify, it's going to cross check, you're going to have some kind of terminology that says, hey, if you paid for our thing, then you know it's going to look at 3 places and know the answer is going to be right, right? Or if it doesn't know the answer, it's going to say, I don't know the answer. Like I'd want that and I'd ask it questions that aren't even pharma related, right? And so I think you have something very interesting, but I think you need to really know your audience on how you package that up because there is going to be some audiences that are going to want to know and go dig really deep with you. And there are going to be some people that don't, that are going to be the door openers to get you into the people who want to talk a lot more detail. That
Thank
would
you.
be my first thoughts. Chris or David?
David, you up?
Yeah, sure. That was a lot of what I was thinking. A lot. Right in line. The other one is I like that your slides were clean. I feel like maybe you didn't spend a bunch of time on them, and I'm down with that because slides a lot of time can be distracting. But to get away from pointy-headed people who aren't going to understand what RAG is and this, um, a 3-stage diagram of here's my question, here's the rag, and here's where our magic sauce, the oracle, filters that in to say to basically teaching your AI it's okay to say that you don't know. I think there would be a lot of value in that visual to catch everybody else who's not technical, which they may have used to have been technical and they are no longer. They're just writing checks at the moment, right? So that may help them understand that architecture a little bit easier, which helps to substantiate the very big claim of we are not going to let your AI machine hallucinate. You're going to let it hallucinate, and then you're going to tell it your hallucination is wrong. And so splitting that hairs sort of, I think, improves the credibility with a claim like that. And I'll also just do a little finger wagging to say when you do hit somebody who knows about it, you can make the current AI machines do something very, very similar to that. But you have to give them a strong prompt of, if you cannot obviously see the answer, tell us you don't know. So people can sort of demonstrate to themselves what your thing is doing, but it's going to then miss a lot of the other magic sauce that you're bringing. And I think that's it. And then also, I like the very plain slide deck, and I am an outlier. So, again, like we were talking about, or like Elaine mentioned, you got to have a 1 with no slides, 3, 5, 10, each of those with slides. Juice them up a little bit. Put your logo in every corner of the slide or some kind of a little template-y thing like that. But I also like that they weren't wall of text. Wall of text that's just what you're reading. That's right out. 3 big bullets, big old font, splash of color, and your logo would be done. That's the part about the substance of your presentation. Sorry, but Elaine got most of it.
Yeah, Elaine nailed a whole bunch. David had like a lot of great comments too. I would say that, the AI topic, you naturally have people that are interested in it, but you also can quickly have a lot of skeptics, depending how quickly your presentation goes and what you talk about, right? So just sort of that's kind of the double-edged sword of AI. You can have both, and like I'm to me, that's how I think about it. I'm interested because there's a huge opportunity, but if I don't hear the substance, then I become a skeptic pretty quickly. So just think about it that way. The other thing, again, like as Elaine said, my wife tells me this all the time, don't talk in, special languages and, abbreviations and whatnot, right? So definitely that, like Elaine hit that on hit the nail on the head with that one. I'd say that with AI in particular too, you don't really need to go into the reasons why hallucinations are bad and why all these other LLMs are bad. We understand that that's a quick sentence. Don't even talk about it. What we really want to hear about is your solution. And so that gets back to David. Show us what is your secret sauce, or what is your angle of why you guys can do it better, or is it your team that can do it better? What is that special thing that we can sort of see why that is going to be? I think up front, be a little bit more clear that is this it still wasn't clear to me where your focus is, because naturally the question is like, okay, with any AI in general, it's like you can't compete against the big boys doing the LLMs. Where is your particular area you are focusing on to try to compete? And I wasn't sure, you're starting with the whatever big pharma medical areas, or is it broader than that? But you want to, go into that a little bit more and why that's your specialty, and that's where you're going to focus. I'd say also, again, back to the, if you can add any more substance to your slides, to your prototyping, show any metrics that you're showing, right? Where are you in your prototype? Is it just, screenshots, diagrams, or do how long has it been active? How many users have you had on there? What are your, again, leaning towards, hey, this is, a lower level or a lower level of hallucination, higher accuracy. Are there metrics you can show around that? Are there other partners you're working with? When did you launch that prototype? How long has it been in? What version are you in? Things like that adds more substance and more, traction-ish to what you can show. So it's not that, again, it's not the slides lacking color. It's you want to think about what adds substance to your slides too. So because otherwise it's, we're all sort of, you leave it as, without some of this stuff, you leave it as, well, trust me, we can solve this, and that's where you want to sort of, if you can show more of that traction, more of that substance, you're gonna get more of that interest behind the investors and have them want to ask you more questions about it. So those would be my more pointed comments to you. But I mean, it was, a very interesting presentation.
Thank you.
And I would add that you need to be much more alert about your business side, not your project side. So you're talking about who your first customers are, or who they will be, or what level of traction, or some level of engagement. If nothing else, your vanity metrics on your 10,000 people that are watching your social media channel, so that you've got proof that there's actually a market paying attention at some level of what you're doing. All right, thank you. I'm going to move on to Randall.
Okay. Let's see. Hopefully you can see that slide okay. And
Yep.
And so wearable is basically comes from the concept of my 30 years in the cardiology device and software biz. And we're all familiar with what we call low acuity solutions with the Apple Watches and the Cardia device. And in the world that I come from patient monitoring and work for Cerner and clinical predictive analytics specifically. And there's a couple of companies out there, GE Command Center, that you can feed, multi-parameter data, including SpO2, NIBP, et cetera, and it can tell you whether or not you're going to code within 6 hours. And so what's missing in our estimation is a mid-acuity solution. It's in between low acuity and it's in between the high acuity. So it's a sensor pad that works with an app, and it has the ability to collect multiple parameters of data, sends it to the app in a secure format, and then ultimately uploads it to the cloud. Now, I will add that a similar technology exists. There's a company called OBS Medical, but to do that, you need a $100,000 server rack and ICU monitors. So our concept was to collect that data from a sensor and then send it up to the app ourselves. And so ultimately what you have is you have the ability to collect data from the patient, and then the app has an Android daemon that runs and it collects Bluetooth information from a glucometer. And speaking of traction, we actually have 2 patents pending on this. We have a prototype developed. The way that we get away with doing this is there's some very advanced silicon from companies such as Analog Devices that gives us the ability, for instance, to put an EKG machine on a 15 millimeter square chip, which is in our Pixie wearable device. And so what we want to do is we want to give clinical grade data continuous, and be able to integrate this in within the consistent institutional healthcare system that we have. I think COVID showed us that there was a need out there. And in fact, COVID showed the Center for Medicare Services, CMS, that indeed you need to be able to reimburse for that. So remote patient monitoring is now a reimbursable thing that actually occurs. So this particular device can act like, if you're familiar with a Holter recorder, which is just a 24-hour ambulatory ECG device, but it can go further than that because of the analog device's chip that it's got. It can see 5 leads of ECG, meaning that it can do ST segment analysis, which is the harbinger of actual heart attacks. If you ever look at the fine print on your Apple Watch, it'll say it's for atrial fib only, can't do heart attacks or anything like that. So because of the variety of sensors, which includes multi-lead ECG, multispectral SpO2, infrared temperature, as well as a 9-axis inertial motion unit, it has the ability to collect a lot of different data and then upload it to the app and then to the cloud. And so this gives us the ability to basically bring the hospital to the patient and have the ability to just walk around and collect data that you can ultimately send up for reporting. As mentioned, the ability to do clinical predictive analytics has been out for quite a while now. GE does it on their command center just with ECG. So we're going to collect that data. We're going to send it up to the cloud. We're going to do clinical predictive analytics on it, create a visualization object, which then we're going to deliver back to our Seva app. Seva, of course, in French is "How are you?" And so
you're well into past 3 minutes. So
sorry, those 5 slides go quick. So I'll just stop it right there where we get into the financials and leave it for your questions.
Yeah. So David, you want to go?
Sure thing. I liked the slide that you had that showed mid acuity, and it shows exactly where your product wants to sit. And so that was like the slide that says 1,000 words, shows me exactly where you think you're going to be positioning yourself. And then the other slide where you had all your competitors on there, I thought was really awesome. But maybe that's something for the 5-minute pitch. Breeze through it, because 3 minutes, you've only got so much stuff to talk about. When you're talking about your patent, a question that comes up a lot of times is, do you have a design patent or a utility patent? So throw that one word on the front of it, and then you get to avoid that question later. You mentioned vertical integration, but I think that might have been a can of worms that would have taken another slide and another 60 seconds. And maybe there's a way to say that in the right 20-second window that you get. We've also mentioned don't use too many special terminology that only people in your universe are going to know. So what's an ST segment, and what does it mean when a patient is coding? And I think I know what ECG is, and SpO2 might be something related to something in my blood, maybe. And I think 9-axis, I think I know what that means. And then you were talking also about some of the security and transmitting it and the cloud and that. And I think if in the early part of your pitch, you just say HIPAA compliant, then you get to avoid a lot of the other stuff when you're talking about in the cloud and on the app and a lot of the other security stuff. I'm doing HIPAA. Cool. You've checked the box, right? That's the end of it. I sure would have loved to hear more about the financials, especially if you have those, because lots of early stage companies don't have that. And so maybe there was too much talking about how awesome your technical piece of your solution was, and it missed the opportunity to talk more about how awesome the current stage of the business is.
Okay.
I'm done.
Yeah, I definitely just picked what I could. I would have loved to have included my team slide because my partner is a physician up in Ottawa. So that would have been a hot seller, I think.
So you might think that there's about 20% of your slides about the product, and the other 80% is your business model, your market, your team, all of that. And so try to say in one slide about your products, and then do all the rest, and then you can go back to your product if you get that done in 3 minutes. Elaine?
So, Randall, I will be different than David. I would have you have way too much on your slides for someone like me that is trying to read them while you talk. Again, if you pulled up that competitive slide, you had so much stuff on there, I couldn't read it in time. I would prefer that you do a visual grid, 2 axes, quad chart, and you make sure you distinctively put wearable in the upper right, whatever that is, and everybody else flows in the other 3 quadrants. And so then I start to visually understand what is the difference on 2 main axes between your products and the other products, right?
Okay,
And
sure.
as David said, I did like the one with on mid acuity. I totally got that. So that was a visual for me. If you think about that, make sure all of your slides are like that. More visual, less like if I have to read through that, I'm not listening to you. And you really want me to listen to you and not read the slides.
Okay.
Okay. The thing I thought you were most powerful with was not in your 3-minute pitch, it was in your 1-minute pitch. And it was, you talked about all the wondrous high acuity data and predictions that are in the ICU and that gets unplugged when you go home. All of a sudden, I now understand a huge problem right there. You left me feeling like, oh my goodness, those cardiac patients are adrift when they go home. And if you then can kind of say, okay, that's the problem. The solution is, wow, okay, we can give you, I don't know, 50%, 75%, however much that mid acuity kind of gives you. Maybe it's the top 7 metrics, whatever, that are on always on kind of monitoring system, even though you're home. And I don't know if that means you can see it on your iPhone, your doctors can see it, that you can both see it. There's alerts that happen if something goes over from a green to an orange to a red, right? Whatever that is, that now the patients have an ICU kind of quality system or hospital kind of system in their home. Holy Hannah, now I got it. I don't have to read all those slides. I really have boiled down the benefit of what you're doing.
Okay.
And then when you start talking about the fact that remote monitoring is now reimbursable, you have to also understand how medically savvy your audience is, okay? Because if I understood it from the 1-minute pitch, you need FDA clearance. Is that correct?
Interestingly, one of our traction points is that the FDA has just cleared wearable devices depending on where you say your device is at. So they've given us a lot more leeway, but we're prepared to make it a class 2 device. I've done that with many other devices in my history. So.
And do you have a predicate, or is it a?
Oh yeah. An ICU monitor could be used as a predicate.
So again, I think the uneducated investor in an early stage that is not very knowledgeable about the FDA clearance process and time and money, that different things that it takes, hears that and runs away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So A, know your audience, and B, if you have ways to make it so it's a de-risked process, make sure you're super clear with that.
Yeah.
Because your problem solution is very intriguing if you can make it so everybody can understand that very quickly. But you want to make sure you're showing how you have de-risked that process and they understand that their return will not take 3 more rounds of you getting, millions and millions and millions of dollars, and that maybe they can get their return back through acquisition in, I don't know, 3 to 5, right? Because the point that both I think David and Chris were making, as I think was John, is you really have to make sure, and this goes for everybody else here too, is that the presentation you're having is not 80% about your product and 20% about what we care about. You have to put yourself in the shoes of the investor and make sure the presentation is 80% about what we want to see, metrics, things that tell us when we're going to get our money back, how much we're going to make, that kind of stuff. We are not here pro bono. We are not just interested because you have a cool device. We want to make money. Let's be super clear what we want to do, right? That is why we're investors. If we weren't investors, we could be philanthropists, but that's not what we are, right? So be very clear about what we can get out of it as investors and why we should be interested. Because to be honest, we're going to listen to like 40 pitches before we write one check. You have to stand out as one of those 40 pitches. And then you have to go through due diligence. And we have to really think about that you guys and the team and the solution and all of that is what we think is going to be a good return for us. So you need to make sure you have that mindset whenever you're talking to an investor.
Cool. So sadly, we seem to have lost someone. I would move on to John, unless you have something to say, Chris.
No, I mean, I'll add it to John. He's also a medical device-ish area, so I'll put it on there.
John, there you go. Hey, look at that lovely background. Good answer.
Made on the fly.
Yep, that's
all right. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Excellent.
Good.
Okay. So basically, certified hand therapists, like my co-founder, are in high demand and work at near 100% capacity. Much of their time is spent manually fabricating hand splints from non-durable materials instead of focusing on the patient. And basically, our pitch in a nutshell is that we've identified a large potential market. From the top-down numbers that we can find, $1.4 billion to $6 billion. There is no existing credible in-office 3D printing competitor in the space. And we currently have a working, innovative, low learning curve system that is better than the current practices and creates durable, billable, custom hand splints. We have the billing code right there. It would be billed through existing billing techniques. And I guess you're not really seeing my little screen, but I have a lot of these splints right here that I've been printing. And these can each be reimbursed right now at $220. And of course, we'd be taking some percentage of that. But there is a real model for making money on this. Basically, the team is a great technical team for starting this. Liz Alstat is my partner. She's a board certified hand therapist. She's also a graduate of the 2025 American Society of Hand Therapy's Leadership Development Program. She is our ideal customer, and she's been a great partner. My name's John Garrison. I've had a very varied career in software engineering, manufacturing engineering, electronics prototyping, 3D design, software-based 3D design, and business management. I founded a software services company and sold it and ran it successfully for 3 years with a team of 12 after that, 12 engineers. So we do have a collective background that is a good fit for this business. A little background on the 3D printing industry. 3D printing is in high demand right now, but has not penetrated all industries. So I have a brother-in-law that's a doctor in Montreal. He was telling me that their hospital had purchased 3D printers, not knowing how hard geometry generation was. They saw kids and hobbyists downloading files from the internet and printing them, but didn't realize that there's a much bigger problem of actually designing the 3D things that you're going to be printing. And that's the problem that I'm bringing my experience to, which is parametric design. I've simplified the process of generating this geometry to something that just involves collecting dimensions, generating geometry, and then automating a 3D printer on site. That's all working. So basically, I'm just saying 3D geometry is a much harder problem than many people anticipate. Basically, the problem and solution, I open with the problem statement. Hand therapists are overutilized. Many of them burn out, especially in rural settings where they're used at over 100% capacity. And the manual labor is yielding splints that are not very durable because of the low temperature thermoplastics they use. Our platform allows them to easily make an excellent, more durable custom orthoses while focusing on patients. And our splints are not only durable, but also reproducible. If somebody comes back with their splint, we can print that same exact splint or slightly adjust it just like that, because each splint has a marking, unique ID on it. So our customers are very easy to find. There's approximately 7,400 certified hand therapists in the US. There's a very coherent organization that we can contact them through and get their names. Hand surgeons and OT clinics are also likely customers, but really our first customers are right there in a list. And our goal for the TPM total potential market is that we want to seek out the best early adopters and use what we learn to develop a system that has wide-ranging applications for a larger pool of physicians and therapists. So we do actually think that the market is much larger than those 7,400 certified hand therapists. And an important thing to note is one bit of unit economics from our bottom-up data. Each one of these system installs is worth about $1,500 a month if there's a clinic with 2 therapists. So that's a very, it's a rough number, but about $1,500 a month based on very real data that we've collected, we would get from each install. Basically, in summary, we see a massive opportunity to bring new technologies to hand therapists. We want to be the R&D department that every hand specialist didn't know that they needed. And we would be paying attention to our customers. We would be looking for other opportunities to help them in their practice. And I think that's my 3-minute speech.
That's your 4.5-minute speech.
Sorry.
So one of the ways that you can make that better is by putting a timer up for yourself, so that you see the timer and that it works for you, because you're not getting it from the hints that I'm making when I put other people on the screen.
Yeah.
So, Chris, you want to go first?
Yeah, I think a good presentation. I think a lot of what the wearable can sort of apply to your hand splint company too, in that it's a life sciences medical devices thing. So as Elaine said, one of the number one things that is going to pop into any investor's head is FDA approval. You're going to want to talk about, is it needed? Where are you at in the process? What is the milestones to get there? You should have a chart on that of, this is where we're at. This is where it's going to be. This is the application, blah, 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 right? For any life sciences company, that is a question that's going to be asked. And it's definitely, you want that information there. I think, you did a good job in terms of focusing more on the business side. But some of those specific business things that I would like to understand is a little bit more about your business model. What are those margins? The business model, are you going to be selling the equipment in? Is it going to be more of a, subscription-based model? Are you going to be making money off of the resins that you're going to be selling them, whatever, right? The other question, and maybe it's not in this part of the pitch, but when I hear these things, I also think of, how does your product solution change the workflow for, your customer? So that hand splint, the hand doctor, right? Are they now going to have to manufacture this on site? Are they now going to have to build that in there? So that is, to me, is part of that product adoption and workflow issue. Again, maybe it doesn't go in this pitch, but something that you need to think about, outside of that. I think also it's, a little bit more clarity specifically for yours, in that I liked how you broke down the kind of the market, but to me it was like, who is the actual patient? When do you get a splint? Is it a finger splint that's already made and whatever? Is that the alternative? Or what is the actual urgency for your particular patient? To really get to, I want to sort of visualize who actually needs this product. Um,
Right.
because I've never had a splint made for me. I've always had my dad would go to the drugstore and get me that finger splint and wrap it with tape, and there you go, that's it. And I would like to sort of understand what that is, and then that can sort of help drive towards what is that market, what is the TAM, what is the specific market size. I think it helps people visualize who that customer would actually be. I think, as John has mentioned too, on the business side, it's the go-to-market strategy. What is your plan on how are you going to sort of get into these hand specialists if they're the actual right people to go to, and who's that primary customer, primary patient? How are you going to get in there? And you know, again, if you have any traction, any pilots, any, relationships with any of these clinics, those would be good traction points to sort of mention as well. But I mean,
Yeah.
I think those are kind of my specific things that I would comment on.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you. I'm writing down these deconstruction notes. This is awesome. A lot of the stuff is answered on subsequent slides, but obviously I had to have fit that into the 3 minutes. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Elaine?
So John, I really, so as an angel, there is a sequence that I like to see personally, problem solution, as when we start with that. If you want to verify, kind of vary from that, it might be, ooh, why are you so passionate about the things? But there is a sequence of events that I like to see. But you had a number of them just in a different order
Okay.
than I liked. For like your team slide, you did a great job of talking about you and your teammate. However, again, same thing. There's too much text on there for me to read that. What I would love to see is pictures of you and your co-founder with, one or two bullets underneath, and the rest of that you talk to, right? But everybody, every one of you guys, you need a team slide because at this stage of the game, probably the most important thing we invest in is team. The second probably most important thing we invest in is team. The third probably most important thing we invest in is team. So everybody needs a team slide. And you should talk about your team in every presentation that you give because it's super important. The other thing I would say is from the standpoint of things, when you talked about in your 1 minute pitch, you said you had early customer feedback. I didn't hear anything about that in your 3 minute pitch. I would love to understand the customer feedback. Now, is this customers that are wearing the splint? Is this OT hand therapists that, are trying to figure out if they should get the 3D printer and they've tried the 3D printer and wow, now I can have custom made splints? Is this so understanding your customer and the feedback that you have and that feedback is positive, however you've kind of closed that loop, is really important for us because there's a difference between somebody at your stage that hasn't talked to anybody about their product and hasn't gotten any feedback and will then have to get feedback and it's further down the line, or you're starting with the mindset that you need to get feedback on an ongoing basis. And that's something I always look for, because if you don't get feedback and you've gone too far, you're wasting my money and you're wasting your money.
That's great. Yeah.
And then the other thing that you talked about was the geometry generation being hard. I think there's something in there, but I didn't get it. You know, that's your specialty. That's what you're bringing to the mix. That's your part of your secret sauce, if I understand it right. But I didn't quite understand what your solution allows that other solutions don't. Is
Ah,
it that you can have I don't think it's having a 3D printer in the office, because you gave the example is that people have bought 3D printers in the hospitals, right? But they can't use them because they are hand therapists. They're not software uh, people who are working with 3D software that creates the geometry, that creates what the 3D printer then
right.
uses as the guide to print it out, right? So what is your special sauce? And then what's special about that is that makes why it's really important that John is part of this team, because that's the speciality that you bring, and why your solution in Splint Factory is going to be better than the competition that you're going to have on that quad grid for me, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry,
Okay.
I missed the word server side. So the geometry generation is just on server side, like any website.
That doesn't mean I don't even know what that
Yeah.
means.
Oh,
I have
sorry.
no clue. I have no
Making it
clue.
worse.
I have no clue what you just said.
Okay.
It's in
So
the cloud.
It's in the cloud.
again, I still don't know why your solution is better than anybody else's from a
Okay.
3D printer. I
Excellent.
don't understand it. You're
And
saying I don't
and
have
it's
to buy a 3D printer, right? So all I'm saying is you need to break it down really very succinctly on why everybody should, of those 7,000 hand specialists, should be working with splintfactory.com.
That's excellent feedback. Thank you.
You bet.
and having been at Microsoft for 25 years, she certainly knows what a server is. She's telling you that she doesn't understand how your business functions in a way that she can communicate it.
Yes.
So there's a whole bunch of the business part that was missing from the conversation that we wish we would have. All right. So thank you, everyone. I think that's the end of that part. I would like to chat a little bit more. Chris and David, I'm going to give you the floor a little bit to talk about what you're doing with SAC. You want to say anything about SAC 29?
You
Chris,
want
I
to go?
think, Chair, do you want to go first?
Sure. So SAC 29, so Seattle Angel Conference, there's been 28 of these, and we're working on the 29th. We do one twice a year. There's the fall, which just finished, and the upcoming one where David and I are the co-organizers of it. It's from March 3rd through May 26th. Companies, startups that are interested in it, I think the application deadline is a week before that, I think February 24th. This is a great opportunity for where, like if you're a startup or as an investor, this is a learn as you're doing program. So you have real investors who are committed to investing $5,000 each. Typically, we'll have 30 plus investors, 30 to 40 investors in this program. So at $5,000 each, it's potentially up to a $200,000 investment in the winning startup. So that's kind of the table stakes here. This is for startups. You got a taste of what you're going to kind of see, except now you're actually going to be pitching in front of also similar and real investors who are going to be putting their money into the winning startup. And so, if you're interested in this, it's a 3-month program. It's a pitch contest. And then after the first couple months, we select, or six weeks, we select the 6 finalists. With those final startups, we actually then go into deep due diligence with our teams. And, we're going to dive into it with your companies, and hopefully one of you will then emerge as a winner. And I would also say that beyond just the winner, that's where the commitment goes. But in all of the SACs that I've been involved in, there's also been other finalists where investors have also put together or invested directly into those companies. So this is a way to sort of, build yourself into the network of the startup and the angel investing network, and get your name out there and your company out there.
Cool. David?
I think that's about all of it. On the entrepreneur side, I would just say I went through it on the entrepreneur side a bunch of times, and each time I learned something. And even if you don't make it to the next phase, a very unique piece of SAC is that the SAC team decides to sit down with the entrepreneurs that don't make the cut and, give them more feedback than just, no, I'm not interested. It's, here's what you could do to take the next step. Iterate on your slide deck, iterate on your presentation, learn what you got to say in the 3 minutes versus what you have room to say in the 5 minutes or 10 minutes. I think, like, one thing that happened to me on the entrepreneur side was that my presentations, and it's still something I do as an entrepreneur hat talking to investors, is I still present myself like I'm talking to a customer. And that's not the right thing to do when talking to an investor. And there's practice is the only way to get good at that.
Good. Thank you. So we have a bunch of workshops that are coming up. Glad to go through those. Since you've gotten to here, you will now get the announcements on Meetup. So that'll be useful. I guess I'd like to hear from you, the rest of you, if there's any thoughts that you have about what you got feedback on.
Well,
that was fantastic feedback. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's great to hear something other than my own self speaking. So it's good to have a reflection back.
Good. Randall, can you tell people about how you get that little magic screen on screen thing and your, sub-second visualization?
Oh yeah, so I use open source OBS Studio, and I've got 3 scenes set up. I've got one with just a camera, so I'm full life, and I've got another scene that has my PowerPoint open, so I can just kind of effortlessly, quickly go back and forth. And then last but not least, I've got a black screen. So if I want to disappear, actually the reason I disappeared was because of my friends at Xfinity, but I can also do that. So I owe it all to open source OBS Studio and setting up multiple scenes.
So if you as a founder want to know how to do OBS like that, I think David is an OBS fan. He would be glad to have an appointment with you and try to help it get set up like Randall did, because Randall's technical engagement was very tight. It was very nice. Although he has to do something about Xfinity.
Yeah, what can I say? It's the internet gods.
Yeah, well, being the ex-owner of an internet service provider, I will be quiet.
Well, I appreciate it.
Trisha, did you get anything out of this?
Yeah, it was really nice to listen to feedback, and yeah, like much more prepared now and understanding what y'all want to hear from the
Yeah.
pitches. So thank
So
you
we
so
have
much for
on
your
our
time.
YouTube channel, we have a recording of the meeting last Tuesday. Let me post that. And it was sort of the lecture version as opposed to the doing version. And Dana is a pitch coach who will help people make progress. I don't type as fast as I used to with my hand. All right. So I put the YouTube in there that I have uploaded the meeting from last time. I'm going to upload this as well. So this will all go up there as well. I think if there's one thing that you get out of this, practice talking to your audience a lot, right? And do it in the way that you get feedback, not just, a mirror is useful, recording yourself is useful. There's actually an app that Dana talks about that will, give you feedback. You get to talk to the AI and they'll talk back to you about your pitch and so forth. But getting people to sit down with you and watch your pitch and give you feedback is really useful. And lots of practice. When, I think of it like gymnastics, right? When you do all of that crazy stuff and then everything comes down to sticking it at the end, it matters that you make a compelling statement at the end that is so remarkable, so valuable that out of the 80 pitches, you're one of the 3 that people remember. And that happens through practice and using the iterative training loop to get yourself to say something so you stand out and everybody knows that you know your numbers about how your business runs. Thanks for coming. We will do more. I am scheduling a bunch of things still. They're still in midair a little bit, but they'll start showing up on the meetup group, and you're welcome to come back and do more. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.